of the major arcana. Here at the Pomegranate major arcana.
Hi, Sharon.
Mandy. It's really hard to keep a straight face.
Yeah, the death card.
The end.
The end. Well, the tarot, should it be at the end, though? I quite like the fact that it's there in the middle.
I agree with you. It indicates that there's something.
There's more.
More.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is actually nice that it ends with the world rather than death.
And with a bang.
Yeah. It ends uplifting. I like that. I'm a bit of a sucker for happy endings. So, but the tarot would be incomplete without the death card, that's for sure.
It is part of life. And it is, everything dies.
Yeah.
And I do believe that, and I did learn it as death. Not necessarily somebody dying. Although, let me tell you, at 16 years old, every little friend you got is going to ask you, how am I going to die? I hated that. And to the point, I'm not answering that question. But it doesn't, like, every time you get the death card, it doesn't mean that somebody's going to die. And there are some people who kind of milk that drama of it and do the whole death thing, but it means something is going to die, and that something could be a plant, a plan, a career, a relationship, a type of energy. Something is going to die, and sometimes, damn it, man, that's what you want to hear.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it's a thing that you have to accept, but whether it's good or bad, I think the real word is acceptance for me. But it is a big subject, death, and the death card is a big deal. And Harley has done a massive workshop on it
that was epic.
He did it at our last festival where he absolutely researched the origins of the death card. So this is like way beyond what we're going to be sort of like talking about here today. Isn't it sort of over 4 hours long or something?
It is, but it is just so informative, very academic and informative, and a lot of research, and it was fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, if you want to kind of know and understand that side, the real history of the death card and how it all came about, contact us and you can purchase his workshop on it. It comes in 2 videos so that you buy the set.
So, and it dives into the Marseille all the way up through modern decks too. I mean, but all the symbolism, everything. It's
yeah. I don't think you'd get a more in-depth kind of look at that card. And I do believe we've got the Wheel of Fortune coming up as his next encounter. But moving on, we're going to talk about the death card in the context of readings, you know, because fortunately, we experience dramatic death very few times in our lifetime. So, but the death card comes up a lot in readings. So, you know, and it does mean something, as you recognize it, is coming to an end, or has recently come to an end, or should be brought to an end. It might come up as advice, you know, finish this, kill it off, like you don't need it anymore, whatever. So, you know, however it comes up in the reading, the death card comes up a lot, and it very, very rarely will actually mean physical death. I think unless, for me, it's unless you were asking about it.
I have seen it come up as actual physical death, and it was fairly devastating. We'd done a reading. I don't even know if I should tell this. It's really sad. And it was soon ago, within years, but we were doing Iris.
Yeah.
Our friend Iris was doing a college marketing course.
Okay.
And for their college marketing course, they had to do this fundraiser. And her fundraising group chose this little girl named Tilly who had leukemia, and they wanted to raise money for her to come to the United States and get treatment from a doctor.
Okay.
And she had never heard of St. Jude's hospital. And St. Jude's is here in America, and they will take any child as long as they have that doctor's permission for treatment. And they do not charge. They have housing for the parents. So we'd gotten it to where all they had to do was get them passage to America, and then they would have been seen free. And we did a reading on how the fundraising would go.
Okay.
And the death card was the outcome. And everyone there saw it. We twisted it. We didn't want to see it as death. And this is going to happen because sometimes we twisted it into some kind of, transformation, and she's going to come back to Ireland or Scotland. It was Scotland, doing fine, and this child will be transformed. The little girl died like a week later. And we were all just devastated.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that the tarot was wrong. It's just that we were so emotionally invested in this child.
Yeah.
That we refused to see it.
See, I don't think we but you weren't asking about life or death. You were asking about the fundraising, right?
Yeah. And the fundraiser was obviously cut off. It ended.
Yes. And I don't think we should ask about life or death. I mean, people can ask the tarot anything they want. That's the danger of it. You can actually ask it anything and you will get an answer. However, I personally would not dream of asking a life or death question because, let's say it came up and you'd ask that, you would be a nervous wreck for whoever it was you were asking about. You would want your reading to be wrong. I don't know.
Not only that is, as readers, we have a responsibility.
Yeah.
And if we see something like, death, or you've always heard about these people who see how somebody's going to die. And I had a friend who was terrified to go near train tracks because somebody told him he'd be hit by a train. And so you're either going to, if you tell somebody how they're going to die or if they're going to die with a reading, you're shaving years off of their life. You're making them have a half-life by being afraid, or you're planting a suggestion in their head, whether you're wrong or not. Say, okay, you're going to get hit by a red car. Subconsciously, some people will walk in front of a red car because that's how they're supposed to die. This is responsibility that...
You have no idea. When I used to do Cambridge Market, the amount of people that came for readings that said, I had a reading before, and it really put me off because I was told either I was going to die or that a close loved one was going to die. And I thought, what sort of...
Got no business. No business.
That has said that to you?
Yeah,
I was only ever once asked if I would do a reading about somebody dying. I'm sure I've told this story. I don't think I've told it in this series because we haven't done the death card. But this girl came to the market and she'd had readings with me before. And she said, I know you don't do health readings, but she said, can I just run this by you to see whether you're willing to do this reading or not? I said, all right, you can ask. I said, ask me. Okay, go on. So she said, my mother lives in, I'm going to say Romania. I don't know if it was Romania. It was some Eastern European country. So my mother lives in Romania, and she is looking after her mother, which would have been the girl's grandmother, and her mother's sister. So she was looking after two old women who were in their 90s. And she said there's no social support in that country. My mother's on her own. My mother has no quality of life whatsoever. And basically, she's just waiting for them to die so she gets her life back. Would you be willing to read to see if they're going to die? And I thought, oh my God, right? So I thought about it, and in the end, I said, look, I'm not prepared to ask if they're going to die. I said, but I am prepared to ask if over the next, let's say 12 months, whether the situation for your mother is likely to improve at all. That I am, because you never know, your mum might get a friend that helps her, or you know, you don't know what will come up. But I am prepared to ask that. So I went ahead and I did the reading. And I thought, maybe if they were going to die or one of them was going to die, maybe the death card will show if, like, you know, naturally, like, but I'm actually asking about her mother, not, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, there was no sign of the death card. There was no indication that either of them were going to die. So not that was what I directly asked. So anyway, about a year later, she came back. She said, do you remember me? I said, yes, I do, actually. She said, they're still alive.
And
funny story. It was kind of a funny story, but that is the only time I've actually really been directly asked, is someone going to live or die, in the hope that I was going to say they were going to die. I mean,
it makes sense. It makes sense, because yeah.
So,
but yeah, I do not. I take that responsibility really. I did have one. I would like direct one-on-one, like whether they're going to die or not. Not even if they've got an illness. It's just, that's not my place. And I'm not here to rob somebody of time. You know, because if you know somebody's going to die or you're going to die, you don't, it sucks the joy right out of you.
Well, let's be honest. Everyone is going to die. We're all going to die. You know, I mean, the question should never be, is this person going to die? I mean, no, I don't think the question should exist at all. I would not answer it as a tarot reader, but if they were, it should be, are they going to die this week, or are they going to die this month? If you're going to ask the question, that's how you would have to ask it, because the answer would always be yes, everyone is going to die at some point.
And then, okay, I had a palmistry done from a young lady who was supposed to be very good, right? And she was fairly accurate on a great deal of things, but then she got to my lifeline, and she said, oh, there's something you really, really want to do, but as soon as you learn to do it, you're going to die. So that was when I really was pursuing my gemology degree. And even knowing, you know, that's utter bullshit, I pulled back from going to school, because it's like, why learn it if I'm not going to be able to use it?
If I don't learn it, then if I don't really learn anything, then I'll never die.
Right. But for years, I let that screw with my head. I mean, she did me a really disservice. You know, I'm actually glad I didn't go on to be a gemologist, because I would never have done what I really love. But it affected the quality of my life. It affected my desire to learn, and I allowed it to. But man, no, yeah, that was a messed up reading.
I mean, taking actual death sort of seriously in the tarot, but without predicting a death.
Yeah.
I do think the consideration of the concept of death is kind of worth everybody at some point what's the word? It's thought-provoking. Like, for example, I'm saying this to my sister the other day because she was reading her old diaries and she'd got to the point in the diaries where our mum had died, right? You know, and how she said she was very different, like just reading the old diaries after that happened. And I remember I said to her, like, an old boss of mine had said to me at that time, there are two types of people in the world: those who've experienced the death of a close loved one and those who haven't. And I just thought that actually is so true. That is so true, because once someone really close to you has died, you know, like a sort of parent, or really, I'm talking about really, really close, death becomes much more of a real possibility. And what that means, like that you're never going to see that person again, or you're never going to be able to communicate with that person again in the same way
Right.
that you did before. A lot of things about it fly at you once you accept the situation and you absorb that, you know. And I think death is an interesting thing. I mean, like, you know, like we've got Anne on board, who's our medium, who's very, very reputable and, you know, very, very good at what she does. She's been doing it for years and years and years. She's very sensitive and, you know, amazing woman. But obviously her understanding of death must be something else altogether, because she does tune in to sort of, like, you know, like loved ones.
That there's something beyond, like we were talking about with the death card being in the middle of the major arcana.
Yes. I mean, she will bring so much comfort to people with very kind of, you know, accurate and really comforting messages, you know, that people will be completely sort of blown away by. I mean, she is incredible. She's very authentic. So death is a very big deal to Anne, and we're not talking about her own death, or, you know, but, you know, if she came for a reading and the death card came up, it would be, well, you know, your death is very meaningful to you. Not, and that's in a very different way altogether. It's in a spiritual kind of way.
And that goes right into, like, for a long time I had issues with the transformation thing. You know, oh, death is a transformation. It sounded very new age window dressing to me, but it truly is. You know, one state ends and another state begins. It's not necessarily always a good transition. It's not always the butterfly, you know, but it is, I guess, in a way, that transition from being one thing to being another.
I do have to say as well, I think that anybody who is a fake medium is the lowest of the low.
Oh my God. Yeah, they're bottom feeders. They feed on true deep need and emotion. Any kind of charlatan, even a tarot charlatan, well, especially a tarot charlatan, because it's personal.
I agree, but a fake medium.
A fake medium should be drawn in, well, I shouldn't say that, but really punished hard, because that's just cruel.
Exactly. But anyway, one of the things Harley does say in his thing that stuck in my mind in his lecture is, if you look at not the actual death figure, but if you look at the four other figures in that card and how they all relate to the arrival of death, you know, I think it's very interesting that you've got the king, who is actually the one that is dead, right? And then you've got the little child who is just, oh, what's this all about? It's kind of like, you know, the little child's quite cool about it. It's kind of like, oh, it's a horse with a skeleton on it. It doesn't seem to bother the little child at all, you know, which is kind of cute. The older sort of child or teenager or whatever she is, she doesn't want to face it. And then the priesty kind of person is trying to negotiate it.
Yeah.
And that in itself is a very fascinating like discussion, and that might be what the card is all about. It's kind of like, you know, something's coming along that you might have difficulty facing, or that might be difficult for some people, but you're absolutely sort of like happy about this. You're almost excited about this. You need this thing to, you've been waiting for this thing to come along.
Yeah.
You know, so the death card in itself already sort of like covers a lot of possibilities, and it's like something's coming along that may seem very difficult, but there is a possibility of negotiating it and mitigating the kind of the damages on it.
And from that end, I also see it a lot as something inevitable, something unavoidable.
Yeah.
From you know, death comes for us all, and it doesn't matter the age, gender, race, whatever, none of it. It's inevitable. So there have been issues or times when I've seen this card where I'm like, this is unavoidable. You've got to face it, and you've got to take care of it. It's not just going to go away.
Yeah. And there was a lovely quote actually from Lewis Carroll in his, you know, who wrote Alice in Wonderland. In his biography, he says something about when death finally comes. I think he said this when he was sort of older or something. He said something about when death finally comes. I wish I could remember exactly the words, but he basically said, it's only going to happen to you once, and then that's over and done with, kind of thing. It was like, kind of like that. It was pretty much that, but he put it much better than that. But it's true, because that death is just sort of like passing through, and a little bit like then he's on to the next one.
Yeah.
So it is something that has to be accepted. But like you said, Sharon, forget the physical death thing. This card, and I want to say this right into the camera, if anybody is a tarot reader or having a tarot reading, the death card, unless a reader is stupid enough or kind of ignorant enough to remove the death card so that it won't come up, right? I mean, which again is like, sorry.
It's part of life.
Yeah. But anyway, but the death card comes up a lot in tarot readings, and you've got to get it into perspective. It's very, very rare that it has got anything whatsoever to do with actual death, and even then it might not be. It might be sort of saying you're recover, you know, you're mourning a death that's already happened. You know, you've got to, it's not necessarily a prediction, blah blah blah. It's really, really unusual if you've got a responsible reader who's not asking about death. It's very unusual for it to come up. But the card will come up a lot, and it's a card that should be taken seriously.
And I've been reading, come August, it'll be 38 years. And it's come up as actual physical death once.
There you go.
Yeah. And I missed it.
Scared to have a tarot reading unless you are saying to the tarot reader, I'm ill at the moment, is it going to kill me? And if you came to me, I would say, I'm sorry,
I don't do medical readings.
I don't do readings.
Yeah.
Ask a doctor.
What Arthur Waite says in the Pictorial Key to the Tarot, he says the death card carries several divinatory associations: death, end, mortality, destruction, corruption. So he really doesn't go into transformation except in the explanation of what the picture looks like from one state to another. But what I love about this is written in 1910, he's got it separated. He says, for a man, it is the loss of a benefactor. For a woman, many contrarieties, which means that she's argumentative. And for a maid, failure of marriage projects.
Oh my God. Wow. Look at that.
So do not take that as a keyword. You're never going to get married.
Oh my God. No. I know you came in here asking me if you were going to die, and that is what I asked the tarot. But what I've actually got is you're never going to get married. Are you made by any chance? God.
But I had to share that. So some of it's a little outdated.
Yeah.
How
Well,
about,
I just think it's an archetype, isn't it? An
yes.
archetype, and death as an archetype, death is death. Death is an ending. It's the ultimate ending. So whilst I can absolutely see that death can often be the best thing that could happen in a situation, and from that, people can let go and transform,
Move on.
sometimes it's not about the transformation or the new beginning. I think we've got loads of beginnings cards. We've got all those aces for a start, and the pages, and you know, I don't know, there's a magician, all of that sort of stuff. I kind of like feel it's very easy to sugarcoat death and go with the transformation thing. And you know, I kind of want to sort of think this is a big deal. The death card just turned up in my reading. Now, what is it that is going to become unrecognizable from what you're used to, from, you know, what aspect of this person's situation is going to actually be filed away now, or whenever this is going to happen? It's over, you know, and it's going to be different from this point onwards, if it exists at all.
And sometimes that ending is devastating. And the person sitting across from you, or if it's you yourself, you don't want to hear this sugar-coated, time will heal all wounds and you're going to transform. And you don't want to hear that. You want to acknowledge that I am hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a very bad breakup from a boyfriend who I was with for 6 years. And this happened like, oh God, 30 years ago or something, you know, but I was with him for like 6 years. So it wasn't like someone I was with for 5 minutes. We had a flat together, blah, blah, blah. And he finished with me. And it was absolutely the death card. It was like my relationship was over. My living in that flat was over. It was kind of like, oh my God, it was devastating. A month later, I realized, it took me a month, that it was like, oh, thank God he did that. It was like someone had to do it, and he was the one that whether it was the courage or he'd had enough of it or whatever it was, I was grateful, because I would have just carried on drifting along with that situation that wasn't right, you know?
Yeah.
So it was good. It was a good thing, but you couldn't have told me that on the day that it happened.
Oh, hell no. No.
And another thing was, I've said this before as well, but when I worked in the travel agents, I think I might have said this on the Ten of Swords, we always called the files, if somebody came into the travel agents, I don't even know if there is such a thing anymore as a shop as a travel agents, but they'd come in and pick up their tickets for their holiday. So our job was finished. It's like once we'd given them their tickets, we had nothing left to do. You know, they'd booked their holiday, they'd paid for it, we'd got the tickets, we'd checked the tickets, we'd give them their thing and say, goodbye, have a lovely holiday, gone. We would put that file in the dead drawer. That's what it was called. And if anything arose from that holiday, like a complaint or something or whatever, it was, where is this file? Oh, it's in dead.
Yeah.
Because it was done. It was done. And doesn't mean the holiday was dead or they were dead. It was just our kind of energy that was required for it to kind of happen was finalized, finished. So the word that was used was dead.
Perfect. So it's not always a devastating thing, but it can't always be turned into the next step of your journey. not at least, at least not until you've gotten through that step, and you're not going to rip somebody's throat out for trying to turn it into a, see what lesson you can learn from this. I don't know if I told you this or not, and this is horrible, but when somebody's hurt or worried, they're not at their best. Let's face it. And
No.
when Paul had his second heart attack, I was devastated. I was terrified. It was back to back, and God bless her. My mom said, let go and let God to me. And at that moment, it only pissed me off. I was so angry. And she knew it, and I had to apologize to her. I had to apologize to her because I ripped into her. But there are times when you just can't hear that and process it and be okay with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. It's I mean, like, I know it's not like not on the same level as a heart attack, but when I finished with that boyfriend,
But it is.
I was in pieces, and I just wanted people to just understand that and just let me go with that big emotion.
Yeah. Sometimes that's what you need, just to daggone be understood.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. What do you think of death reverse?
Now, how I learned that actually was stagnation. And that really sticks in my head. No ability to move forward whatsoever, either stagnation through fear or stagnation through, what is that word, lackadaisical or apathy?
Yes.
Just this death is
acceptance of the situation.
Yeah, no acceptance. Or even on the opposite spectrum, escaping something through the skin of your teeth, by the skin of your teeth.
I'm looking at this now, and I would never have said this like this time last week, but that to me is what happened with me and Jazz in the park the other day. I swear my dog was dead. I swear she might have only been dead for 15-20 seconds, but she lay there like a little lifeless, completely lifeless, and I picked her up. And everything was just like limp and floppy, and it was like, and there was no life in her whatsoever. And I shook her, and all of a sudden her head moved, and she just, it was just like the life just sucked back into her. And I put her down, and she went toddling off, wagging her tail. And I thought, Jesus. I mean, the fact that I was sort of like there and right there and saw it, and I don't know if she'd got something stuck in her throat and stopped breathing. I don't know what it was. It was absolutely awful, terrifying. But I think that is the best ever example of death reversed.
And she's fine now, right?
I took her. I paid £150, which I haven't got, for her to have a blood test in case she'd eaten poison or something. And it's come back all clear. I cannot believe it even happened, Sharon, but I swear to God it did. It was just awful.
That's terrifying.
Absolutely awful.
Man.
That would be death reverse. And I suppose you do get those people that have those near-death experiences, don't they, that actually die and then come back.
Yes.
Like you think something's over, but it ain't. It's not.
That's a beautiful interpretation. Yeah. So all of those, I think.
Yeah. That stagnation one makes a lot of sense as well.
Yeah, because death is a natural progression.
It is natural. And that very much shows in one of the cards I've brought, which is why I chose.
Take a look at these. Oh my gosh. So, I'm bringing up the one I think you're talking about. Is that it?
Totally, isn't it?
Yes.
It's nature. It's absolutely nature. It's whether you're a person, an animal, a tree, a flower, it's part of nature to kind of deteriorate, or whatever the word is, you know. I mean, it absolutely kind of says it all.
And with this wild unknown, okay, every other card you've shown me has had some color in it, some bright patch, and this has no color. I love it.
I know. I mean, I'm sorry, like, for all the transformation stuff, blah blah blah. Death is death in this, right? You know, but it's death is, it's brought it. Well, I think there's another interpretation here that's got nothing to do with death, but it's a saying that I might hear myself say. You need to strip something back to the bare bones, go back to the structure of it, you know?
Oh.
Because as human beings, we carry around with us all our history and all our kind of, you know, attitudes and beliefs, and, you know, and all of that. And this strips it right back down to the bare bones. And that could be what it is this card is trying to say to you in a particular reading, which is not necessarily talking about death, but it is talking about, we're so complicated. We pick up so many habits and attitudes and blah 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 along the way that we actually miss the kind of actual thing in the middle of it all, what it really is.
That is a brilliant interpretation for that. Dang, that is a stark card.
It is.
Let's see, what else have we got? Okay, now I just acquired this Machete Tarot, and I was so glad I've gotten it now, even though I missed some issues, or I could have brought some cards for some past ones. This is the most amazing death card.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
I love it.
She's like half dead, isn't she?
It's showing that life and the color, and on the other side, it's just melting away to dust to show her skull, that we are all dying. It is this.
If you look at that thing she's holding in her hand, that chain,
it's got Saturn. Yeah,
which
Saturn
is the kind of structure of something, isn't it? In the long run, that's what you will end up as.
Yeah. She's got the white rose, and it looks like she's turning to dust. She's got the scorpion on her side over here, the Saturn, and then that angel up here in the graveyard.
Amazing, Sharon.
Yeah, there's no transformation in that card. That is death. The
colors are fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's got a vibrancy about it, to be fair.
It does. And it's very natural. I was so stricken by that card. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, okay. Now I'm having a hard time figuring out which one to bring of yours. Oh, this one.
Well, again, the Housewives Tarot just doesn't really require explanation. I mean, this is not so much that somebody is dead, or it's more the kind of how they're going to die.
I love that everything expires.
Yes, everything. Yeah, it's amazing. It is amazing. Everything has its kind of use by date. Its shelf life.
That is so epic.
I know. I mean, it's a field day for the flies, isn't it?
It is. It is. Oh my gosh. And the food that's showing, it's like.
I did see something by Professor Brian Cox, like it was a sort of an astronomy thing, but it was saying no matter what it is, if you have something that you don't But say you don't nurture it and you don't feed it or whatever, but you just leave it. But at the same time, you don't do anything to particularly destroy it either. You know, whatever it may be, even if it's an inanimate object, things will eventually deteriorate and die.
Yep.
It just will. Like the planet is going to die that we're on. The solar system at some point won't exist. The galaxy we're in won't exist. Eventually, everything will die.
That's kind of depressing. But it's true.
Yeah. Talking of being depressing and going back to the normal death card with death reversed, I'm thinking about euthanasia. So like death as in somebody, rather than death happening naturally or even unexpectedly, like, you know, some people might get killed in an attack or something. Do you know what I mean? It might not be anything to do with health or old age. Some people could die for an unfortunate accident or whatever.
Yeah.
But what about people or animals even, where you take your dog to have it put down, or death that has been kind of organized or agreed, like chosen death, or choosing to end something. So actually doing something about it rather than just, because death feels like, oh, it's very natural. But like I've got a situation going on at the moment. It's got nothing to do with health, but as you know, it's to do with, I've got a situation in my life that I am trying to kind of get out of my life. It's not a relationship, right? But it's, and I'm having to go through a whole process so that this will then no longer be in my life. It will no longer be my responsibility. It will no longer, I just feel my life will be a whole lot better off without it. But I can't just walk away from it. I have to go through a process to kind of finalize it and finish it in the best possible way. Now, is that death upright or is that death reversed? Because I definitely want to kind of end it. That much I'm sure about.
I in my head, it would be death upright, because that you would be the actual figure of death moving forward to get rid of this crap.
Yes.
You know, to trample it with those horses' hooves. Begone.
Yes, and yes, and I suppose like there will be kind of casualties, or a casualty, or some person might see themselves as casualty.
True.
You know, but that's interesting.
It's non-negotiable. This is non-negotiable. You are moving forward.
Yeah.
So.
And I have to do that for the greater good of myself and my family, sort of thing. So yeah.
Yeah. I see that as death upright, but in a good way. Yeah. You have to take on that.
It's very relevant for this situation.
Absolutely.
Because I've had this situation for a lot of years now, you know, and it's time. It's sell by date has arrived.
Yeah, and you're able to. You got to figure death is impartial. There's nothing personal about it. The personification of death is very impartial. So in this instance, you are being the personification of death, because you can't allow your emotions to be touched or triggered. You have to move on. You have to move forward despite the pleas or anything else. So you got this.
Okay. Just thought of that. I just thought it's very relevant to my situation. Yeah. Well, I just brought this along because it's so quirky. So it's got two heads. I mean, that's the first thing that I noticed about it. It's got a human head, and I don't know if it's a horse's head or some sort of animal head.
I like that because that, because death is always shown as a human skeleton, but other
Yeah,
things die too.
exactly. Exactly. And we all share this planet and this home. We are all part of this same experience in a sense.
It's
So
coming up.
I think if I thought about this more, I'd get more of an understanding of it. But it's one
There's
body with two different heads on it.
I love that. I love that. I love the fact that the rose is coming up out of the hole in his feet. I love that he's holding that stick with the cocoon. The fact that there's a head on the ground, just like in the Marseille deck, that
Yeah,
head moth. There's so much going on here.
I know. And there's what is that? The thing that the
Scythe.
that he holds. I mean, it's kind of looking at its next victim almost. It's kind of, do you know what I mean? Like it's looking around for like, who am I going to get next?
Who's next? Yeah.
Who is next? Yeah, but at the same time, you've got that bright sunshine at the back. I mean, I think it's the sunset. The sun has just sort of set on this little scenario.
Which is, yeah, sunset, and then all those comets falling.
Two-headed snake at the bottom as well.
I don't know what to make of that. I really would love to see a book for this, to see if there are any of the cultural references that we just might not be aware of.
A lot, actually. I think I'm missing a whole lot of stuff with this card and this deck, but I do like it. I do like it. I just thought
there's so much going on in it.
I might kind of check it out if there is a book to go with it, because especially with these eyes all over this deck as well, and the eyes, they say, are the windows to the soul.
Yeah.
And obviously the dead figures don't have those alive eyes.
I just noticed that he doesn't have the pupils. Oh, that's just so cool.
The eyes are everywhere else, so you know that. Well, obviously the dead head hasn't got pupils, but the butterfly or the moth does, and the thing, the death thing itself is alive.
Yeah, we need to find a book.
But it's the little cocoon thing on that he's holding on that stick. I mean, is that Hanged Man?
That could be that. I've seen a card where the Hanged Man is a cocoon.
Yeah.
And I thought it was beautiful. I liked that a lot. But I think in this case, maybe I may be wrong, but I think because so many people feel the death card is that transformation from cocoon to butterfly, I think it's overused. But sometimes it does actually apply. But I think it's actually showing death, as transformation. So there's so much.
Yeah, there's a lot in there.
And I have,
if somebody has that deck and understands that deck and uses it, please, get in touch. It would be really nice to speak to someone that really works with that deck
or understands the cultural references behind it, because that's I want to know. And this is my last offering. Okay. Everyday Enchanted.
Oh. So lovely. That is so lovely.
So many things go by in my head. Is that a grandmother and a granddaughter, and the ghost walking by, is that the mother, or is this little girl thinking about growing old? But this is I don't know.
Or maybe the figure walking by is the grandmother as a young woman, and like that part of her is no longer, but has come to kind of, just kind of touch base with her.
Oh, I love that.
Do you know what this reminds me of, it was an old film I watched. Oh my God, I was really young when I watched it. But it was about an opera singer. And it was an old woman sitting under a tree saying to her granddaughter, don't marry anyone unless it's the one you truly love, right? And then it goes back in time to her story. That's what kind of made me think of it. And basically, she was a beautiful opera singer, and she ended up marrying her manager or something like that. And one day they were driving through a town, and there was this young man out in the streets singing opera, and it was like love at first sight, blah, blah, blah. And then eventually he became an opera singer, and him and her were put opposite each other in an opera, and they had to kiss in the opera, and it was obviously the real thing. And her manager husband saw it and had him killed or something like that. So her true love was killed by the man she'd married, who she only married him because he was the manager or something like that. And then it basically, then it goes back to her sitting on the tree, under the tree, saying to the young girl, you've got to marry for true love. And as she's sitting there telling her, she dies. And then the young version of her and the young man come as ghosts, walk off singing this song. And I was absolutely on the floor, like in pieces, right?
It sounds familiar. I know I've seen this.
Oh God, what was the song? It was something to do with. God, it was not helpful. It had the word love in the song.
That narrows it down.
To me, it was a very old film, but oh my God, it got me right there.
Yeah,
It does remind me of it. This does remind. It sort of does remind, because she's giving that little girl the benefit of her wisdom while she can.
I really love that. Oh man, now I like the card even more.
I just straight away thought of that film, and I can't for the life of me think of the name. The name of the film was the name of the song that they were singing.
We'll have to find that. We have to
Springtime.
find that.
It's springtime or something. We believe that the film I'm talking about was called Maytime, 1937. I wasn't alive then, just to okay. And it was starring Jeanette MacDonald and Nelson Eddy. And I'm really sorry that I've given away the ending, but if you really want to kind of like cry buckets, that's the film. And Sharon, if you want to look on YouTube for the last scene, I could tell you straight away if that's it. Oh my God! It gets you right there. But I thought she was talking to a younger person. Maybe she was prior to that or something. But under the tree. But your card just absolutely triggered the memory of that.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to watch it. And what great effects for 1937!
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
The way. Okay, yeah,
I mean, that's like nearly 100 years ago.
I didn't even watch the whole story, and I'm bawling. Damn it.
100% that was the film. I was probably about 20 or something when I watched it, you know, and it was like, oh my God, I was gone.
I'm gonna have to find it, because now I've got to watch it, because I love a good love story.
But it's awful that you know how it ends, but it's
No,
sort of,
I don't mind.
I don't know, but it is like that continuation of the death thing. It's kind of like they finally, it's like some artists, isn't it? They don't get appreciated until they've actually physically died, and then their work, you know,
suddenly becomes more expensive than normal people can afford. Yeah. Yeah. But
that's what they were really here for.
I loved the way that you had said it is in the middle of the major arcanas, and that there's more to come. I really do think there's more to come. I don't think it just ends.
I know that is the comforting thought and the nicer viewpoint of it, but we are more than just those skeletons. We are more than that. What you know, energy.
Yeah, what's one of the first things
when a body has its energy taken from it, That body is like my little dog the other day. The dog's body was there, but the energy was absolutely, it was gone, Sharon. It was gone. And somehow, miraculously, I shook it back.
Thank God. Oh,
But-
that would have been.
But you know, the point being, I'm not a doctor. I didn't have a stethoscope, but Jazz's body was there in its entirety. It wasn't like there was a skeleton of Jazz, but the energy was gone.
And that's, I know we have to end this like sooner or later, but that's, if you've had something alive and then suddenly dead, the difference of feeling, that's where the loss is. My little cat Deacon, I don't know what happened to him. It's like he was fine one day and the next day he like skeleton thin. It was almost like parvo, but Deacon was a cat. And I was getting up for work and he laid down on my chest, right? And I was like, damn, I'm going to be late because I knew he was dying. And I just held him and I could feel when he died, he just wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
That energy goes, energy never ends. Energy still exists. It's just we couldn't feel it anymore.
It separates somehow from that body.
Yeah.
I kind of like think there are situations, whether it is the animal like Jazz, or whether it's those people that have those near-death experiences where somehow it reconnects and revives.
Yeah.
But you know, it's time. Jazz's time had not come. But I'm just saying, I think that the energy does go somewhere. I agree, Sharon.
Yeah. And the fact that she came back, that energy was not just completely gone.
Whether she would have just come back of her own accord, I will never know. I don't want to know, you know, but I happened to be there. And my instinct, if it was the other dog, I might have been able to shake her, but I would have been able to have picked her up.
Yeah.
It was a big, muscly dog. But Jazz is a little thing. So, poor Jazz, I was like, like a cocktail shaker. Come on, Jazz. Oh, it was awful.
I'm sorry you made me laugh. I'm a horrible person.
Because I could.
Yeah. Yeah. But the fact that you felt the disconnect of the energy, that you physically saw the disconnect and it still came back, that really truly leads me to believe in so many instances where that happens, that energy just does not cease to exist. Okay, so yep, I'm going existential now.
So anyway, I think we've done the death card to death.
It's time to kill this video.
I don't know whether we're going to get a bit of Jeanette McDonald and Nelson Eddy as our YouTube link for this one. Should we? Why not?
I think so.
Why not?
Why not?
Yeah. So yeah.
Watch us cry.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's it does capture your card really well.
Yeah, that was beautiful. I'm gonna watch that movie if I can find it in its entirety. So everybody,
anyway, yes, I'll let you.
No, you go ahead. After you.
So like, subscribe, join our mailing list. What else?
Comment.
Whatever. I mean, I'm sure everyone's got their death stories.
Yeah.
So, may have got from the death card that we haven't. Absolutely, let us know.
Yeah.
And we'll see you at that temperance, which is a whole different thing altogether.
Okay, we'll try to keep temperance under 2 hours.
Yeah. See you, Sharon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for engaging with us. Please like, subscribe and share. To book a personal in-depth reading, And to learn more about our incredible courses in tarot and astrology, please visit our website www.thepomegranate.grove.com.